To order the June 2024 meeting of the Federated City Employees Retirement System and Healthcare Trust. Let us start with a roll call. Vice Chair Jennings.
Here.
Trustee Abbott. Trustee Avasti.
Here.
Trustee Chandra, I know, is absent. Trustee Faulkner.
Here.
Present online. And Trustee Linder. Here. And Chair Horowitz is here.
And Trustee Abbott's here, I just couldn't unmute fast enough.
Okay, get ready on the trigger finger. Okay, great.
Exactly.
Do we need to qualify those who are attending remotely?
Yes, that's right. So, Trustee Abbott, we are going to qualify under the traditional Brown Act teleconferencing rules. Are you teleconferencing from the location 2329 Sunrise Drive, San Jose, California?
Yes, I am.
And is that location ADA accessible and open to the public?
Yes.
And have you posted the agenda on the outside of the location from where you are teleconferencing from so that it could be seen by the public?
Yes.
And if a member of the public wishes to be heard from your location, could the board hear that individual?
Yes.
Trustee Abbott has been qualified under the traditional Brown Act teleconferencing rules. Trustee Faulkner, same questions. Are you teleconferencing from the location 420 Star Hill Drive, Cape Carnet? I keep mispronouncing this. Cape Carteret? Carteret. Is that right?
Correct.
And is the location from where you are teleconferencing from ADA accessible and open to the public?
Yes.
And have you posted the agenda on the exterior of the location from where you're teleconferencing from such that it could be seen by the public?
Yes.
And if a member of the public wishes to be heard from the location from where you're teleconferencing from, may the board hear that person?
Yes.
Trustee Faulkner has been qualified under the traditional Brown Act teleconferencing rules. All votes will be roll call votes for the duration of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a time certain item at 11 o'clock, which is application for change of status for a service-connected disability. And looks like no wave of sunshine. And we will hear any public comment at this time. If there are any members of the public who wish to address us on items that are under our jurisdiction but not otherwise on the agenda, there's no one online and no one present. So we can proceed to the next item. No, we do have an item before closed session today, and it is a ceremonial item. A presentation of a commendation for one Robert L. Pena for his service as CEO and Board Secretary of the Federated Plan. Is Mr. Pena present?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Well, there is a commendation. I believe there is some type of physical manifestation thereof.
He's coming.
Thank you so much. I'm not going to read the full text of the commendation. You can read that at your leisure now that you will soon be retired. You'll have a lot of leisure time.
Thank you, sir.
I hope, but I will simply comment that for many of us, probably most of us, Mr. Pena is the ORS. He has been around for 11 years during a transition from pre-Measure G to post-Measure G, through the COVID crisis. A whole generation, I would say generations of trustees have been indoctrinated, inculcated to the board through Mr. Pena. And we have relied on his wisdom, his good humor, his leadership throughout. And I know I personally appreciate his help to me in my role as chair. And the most poignant and most essential thing that one can say is that throughout this entire period, pension checks have gone out to our retirees consistently, monthly, and no one has ever missed a payment. And for that, we thank you. I have some other words to read to you from others who have written in. believe it or not. We're getting texts and phone calls from around the nation. But I'll give an opportunity to anybody else who might want to say a few words to Mr. Pena, who is departing after 11 years with the Office of Retirement Services. And if not, I will continue.
You're asking for.
Yeah, this is,
Oh, okay.
floor is open.
Absolutely. I met Roberto when I was first on a mayor's retirement solution or whatever it was. Yeah, and that was as a union participant at that point. And I knew I'd been kind of talked into applying for the trustee role as an employee. And I was sitting next to him and I was like, you know, I think we're going to be working together, and thank you so much for everything. And I just found Roberto to be just so helpful, so insightful, so knowledgeable. And, you know, I found that to be, it just helped the transition to being from just a regular employee in the city, right, versus a trustee on the pension board, understanding the complexity that goes with it. And you have helped me so much through that process and always been available whenever I had questions. And it just made it so much easier because of that and your willingness to take me through that process. So I appreciate it. I congratulate you on your retirement. I'll soon be joining you eventually, you know, in that world. But thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Roberto. I'm relatively new, but it's always nice to have you there when we have a joint governance committee, a disability committee. I mean, you're there at all these committees. And you worked with me because when I first started, I was up in Windsor, then in Sonoma, and had to go remote. So we had to do our training in a very different way. And I believe from everything I've heard from those who've been with you during their tenure is that the organization is more stable and better off than when you started. So it's a great legacy. And thank you for that. And we have a few more adventures to work through.
Yes.
So we're happy that you will be here to help us to work those adventures through, which begin again tomorrow.
Yes.
So.
Your
But
time
thank
with
you.
us is not quite complete,
Yes.
but
Well,
nearly
we-
so and officially so, perhaps.
And we can't go out quietly. I mean, why
No,
not?
no. Mr. Pena's time with us has not been without controversy.
That's right.
His choice of lunchtime vendors has been particularly vexing for the chair. But we will work through those issues. I have a note here from Mr. Polani, who could not be here today, and he asked me to convey his thoughts. And he says, "I have worked with Roberto since November of 2016.
Wow.
As many of you know, I came from the private sector, and public service was new for me. Over the last few years, I have learned a lot from Roberto, especially on navigating the challenges of working in a public environment. The CEO role is a difficult one, made doubly challenging by the unique structure at San Jose, and Roberto has navigated the challenge admirably. The CEO-CIO partnership, so critical for the success of our plans, has worked extremely well, and this is thanks primarily to Roberto. I wish him all the best in his future endeavors." And I understand your future endeavors may include serving as a trustee on a pension board elsewhere,
Yes.
which does call into question somewhat your judgment, but however, I will not comment further.
Hey,
So officially, on behalf of the trustees, on behalf of the plan and the board, I present you with this plaque of commendation and our sincere thanks.
They're gonna take a picture of
Oh,
us, Mr.
are we?
Chair.
Okay.
Yes.
If I had known that, I would
No, this is fine.
have.
I think, Mr. Chair, I forgot to mention that Roberto is actually highly regarded and well-known throughout the entire public pension world. So I think Orlando will be lucky if they can get him
Yes.
on their Board of Trustees.
Quite right. Thank you for reminding me of that, including your service to us. You're one of the key executives at Calipers and contributed to that strong and important organization. So thank you again.
Thank you. I just wanted, if you allow me, just
Please.
say a few words. So first, thank you. Thank you for those nice words. And, I know Prabhu sent the note, but obviously, to his point, it takes two to tango. So, we have a very good relationship, but that's really, it's really because we both work at it. He's just been nice, give me recognition for that. But, like any other, group, you have to work together, otherwise we wouldn't be so successful. So I do want to, I've been here for 11 and a half years. I love pension. I believe wholeheartedly on the pension benefit and the concept. My parents, they both work in public positions in Puerto Rico, and they actually dependent on their pension when they both retire. So this is close to my heart, the kind of work that I do. And it's interesting, the comments about I brought stability to the office, as these days that stability seems to be a little rocky. But again, I just want to publicly thank everyone for those kind words. And to the members, I just want to let them know that I done my best. It's been a real pleasure and an honor to work for you for these last 11 and a half years. And to you, the trustees, I do want to, on behalf of the members, I want to thank you for your hard work and commitment and dedication. I know it's not an easy job. I also recognize over the last 6 to 9 months have been extremely challenging, and the hours that you have committed to the job, I'm sure have been longer than you anticipated, and to that extent, we want to thank you for your support. So it's been a real pleasure. It's been my honor to be here for 11 and a half years, and I wish the boards and the plans much success in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no further comment, let us move to the next item, which is closed session.
So we adjourn to our closed session room.
Into the back cave.
Recording stopped.
We have quorum back and we can reconvene our open
Recording
session.
in progress.
Thank you. So there are no reportable items out of closed session. We have a time certain item at 11 o'clock, and we will skip forward then. I don't know if we approve the consent calendar.
No, you haven't.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
And do we have a second?
I so second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have our online trustees back with us?
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, then trustee Abbott, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Faulkner?
Aye.
Trustee Avasti? Aye. Trustee Jennings?
Aye.
Trustee Linder?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Consent calendar is approved. Next item is death and survivorship. We will have a moment of silence for those who have served the city and who have passed. Okay, thank you. On to item number 4, investments. And I understand the esteemed Jay Kwan will be presenting today.
I'm not sure about seeing.
We're expansive in our definition, Mr. Kwan.
Quite generous. So I'm filling in for Prabhu, who's traveling on behalf of the program. I'll keep it super brief, but just wanted to let you know that as we approach the fiscal year, end of the fiscal year, it's kind of our period where we do our normal quarterly rebalancing. So there's going to be some small portfolio cleanup trades going on. In addition, you might have expected from prior years' experience that this would be the time where we're preparing for pre-funding. But as a reminder, the city chose not to pre-fund the Federated plan this year, so there won't be any of that going on. This is a pretty, I call it pretty subdued end of quarter, end of fiscal year type activity. So I'm just going to hit on the numbers that probably normally gives you the estimates through a certain period of time for the fiscal year through last Monday, the 17th. So the pension estimates supplied by Makita, thank you, were 9.5%. That's through Monday the 17th. That's fiscal year to date. Obviously, pretty decently ahead of the 6 5/8 bogey. So with about 2 weeks left, cross your fingers. And for the healthcare trust, it's the estimate for the fiscal year to date is 9.8%. Again, ahead of the discount rate bogey.
Okay, thank you. Do you think you can hold it together for 5 more trading sessions?
You know, scotch tape and shoelaces, and we'll get
Okay.
there. But we'll see how it goes.
All right, very good. Any questions from trustees?
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Newberger.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you. Perfect. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Hassan Soleja, and I'm a vice president on the investment team. I've been here 9 years, and I'm happy to give the update. Before I share my screen with the performance, I'll just give a few bits of commentary on market. I think 2023 was a challenging year in many ways. I think from a deal flow and exit activity, we saw fairly muted activity across the board. I think coming into the first quarter of 2024, that challenging environment persisted. I think in the last few months here, maybe in the last 2 months, we have seen some pickup anecdotally, speaking with our private equity and GP relationships that, I think folks are getting ready to, look at assets and potentially get into transactions. But, fundamentally, the exit environment remains pretty uncertain. So I'll sprinkle in some more commentary as I go through it, but I'll go ahead and share my screen with the presentation. On page 2, you'll see a familiar chart. The performance of the legacy portfolio is in the column to the left, and then the performance of the strategic partnership with Newberger. In the legacy portfolio, I would note that performance here is largely flat from Q3 to Q4, generating an annualized rate of return of approximately 8%. 7.9 to be precise, and a net multiple that is unchanged from the prior quarter at 1.6 times. This portfolio is very much in harvest mode, and there's some net asset value remaining. The two columns in the middle are the strategic partnership with Neuberger Berman. Series 1 today is generating a 20.7% net internal rate of return and a multiple of 1.8 times. Some distributions have been paid here, but the vast majority of the value is still unrealized, which is what you see in the net asset value row. Series 2 represents investments that have been made since July 2023. Here, still very much early days, and the performance is not yet meaningful, just given the very long-lived nature of this asset class. The performance here is listed as NM, but tracking and no huge concerns here. I'll skip forward a few pages to page 11, where we have the benchmarking analysis for the Series 1 portfolio. As I mentioned, generating a 20.7% net rate of return. That is first quartile among its benchmark for 2017 vintage fund of funds index, and the TVPI, or the total valued to paid in metric, is above median, generating a second quartile performance. So very happy with the performance here across primaries, secondaries, and co-investments. All three sub-asset classes here very much in line with expectations. On the next page, you'll see the performance of Series 2, which I mentioned we still very much view as not yet meaningful, given this fund started making investments fairly recently here. All of the information presented here is as of Q4. I think just a sneak peek into what we're seeing in Q1, from our sort of internal analysis and just based on data we're getting, Q1 is roughly flat, maybe slightly up at the market level. As I mentioned, you are seeing some pickup in activity. Interest rates remain a big question mark, and the election later this year will very much clear some decisions over the next few months. But I think we remain very, very happy with the performance to date, and as stewards of the capital of the system, happy and honored to present it in front of you. So I'll pause there if any specific questions at this time.
Thank you. Are there any questions from trustees? Okay, it looks like we can proceed. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Good morning, members of the board. I just realized that while I have all my presentations open, it would be helpful if I logged into Zoom so that I could share them with you. So I'm doing that right now. Apologies. All right, so I have a lot of good news today about your investment program. You've probably been seeing headlines about strong market performance recently. I will start by sharing the private markets report. Here on this slide, I draw your attention to each asset class within private markets on the left-hand column, and then the internal rates of return that are in the second column from the right. So those internal rates of return, or dollar-weighted returns, are how we believe private markets performance is best evaluated. You'll also see the time-weighted returns as usual in your full pension report as well, since those are the returns that roll up to the total fund performance. But taking a look at each program on an internal rate of return basis makes sense for private markets. And if you take a look in the farthest right column, that's the public market equivalent internal rate of return. So if you were to have taken the same dollars and put them into a similar public markets index, that is the return you would have garnered. So taking a look, every asset class is ahead of its public market equivalent internal rate of return, with the exception of venture capital, which is a very immature program. As you know, venture capital often, even compared to other private markets asset classes, takes some time to realize and exit investments. The first program here, if I can get my computer to scroll to the next slide. Here we go. The private debt program currently stands a bit overweight relative to its target of 3% at 4.5% now. The IRR since inception is 6.2. As you know, there were several investments made in 2010 that weren't really necessarily intended to be part of the private debt program, but were opportunistic at the time, and they've sort of overwhelmed some of the returns here once they were reclassified as private debt. But your internal investment team continues to commit regularly to the private debt asset class to try to diversify those early returns from now 14 years ago. So if we take a look on the right-hand side of this table and the individual funds that the plan is invested in private debt, you can see that the majority of them, especially the ones that have been invested between 2010 and about 4 or 5 years ago, those that are starting to exit investments are generally outperforming their peer IRRs. There was one new investment in private debt during the quarter. Again, this is a quarter lagged. As of the fourth quarter of 2023, there was one new investment in Invesco Credit 3 for $5 million. The program continues to become more diversified, both by vintage year and by geographic focus. And then we move on to real assets. So real assets now equates to about 2.5% of the total retirement system, a bit underweight its 3% target. There were 3 new commitments this quarter in order to try to continue to build this program in Scout, Orion, and Soraya for $5 million each. And you can see the performance by vintage and strategy. The bigger investments in the program, the $25 million in Global Infrastructure Partners 3 back in 2016, has outperformed its benchmark. And then you see a strong return for Kimmeridge Energy 5. This is a more volatile asset class than traditional private equity, so you do see that volatility in the internal rates of return of individual funds. But the overall program has an internal rate of return of 10%, so into the double digits. This program.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
I'm trying to follow along on my iPad, so if you can
Sure.
tell me what page
Yep.
you're going to ahead, that would be great.
Sorry about that, no problem. Yeah, on page 11,
Okay.
we'll take a look at the diversification of the program by vintage year and geography. There is some concentration from 2016 in terms of vintage year on the upper left from when this program first began to be funded, but it continues to be more and more diversified. And as I mentioned, 3 new investments recently. Your team continues to work to build this program. On page 12, the next program is the real estate program. It now equates to 3.9%, so overweight relative to its 3% target, with a total IRR of 6.4% since inception. I will skip ahead to page 15 and 16, where you see individual funds. You can take a look at back to 2005, DRA 5 being the first investment, and your team has continued to reinvest in DRA funds given their strong returns and continued sticking to their knitting in terms of real estate investing. You can see the IRRs on the right-hand side relative to peers, and you can see that the total IRR of the program on page 16 is 6.4%. This program also has a bit of concentration in the early years when it first began to be invested back in 2017, but that's continued to become more and more diversified over time. And then the final private markets program that I'll talk about in this particular report is venture capital on page 18. This is a very nascent program. You can see that currently there's a 0.7% weight in your total retirement system relative to a 4% policy target. There were no new commitments during the quarter that we're discussing. You can see on page 19. And on page 20, you can see the 5 individual funds that have been committed to between 2021 and 2023. No real meaningful returns for this program yet. We'll continue to work with your team to diversify exposure both by vintage year and geographic focus. And then the remaining 30 slides of this deck are mainly on the market environment, which in the interest of time, I won't go through page by page, but we're always happy to take any questions about the private market environment.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions from trustees?
I have a question. I've noticed that the market investments in private equity are down, and I'm wondering if that has any implications for us.
That's a good question. Yes, and actually, next slide on page 22, you can see here that fundraising activity for private equity funds during the fourth quarter of 2023, which is the last one that we have data for, were down 29% compared to the prior quarter. That actually, I think, is a good thing if you're still looking to invest in funds now, because as some of the more in-demand funds that it might have been more difficult to access in the past are having some potential prior investors reduce their allocations, then there's more opportunities for funds like yours and your investment team to get access to those funds.
Thank you.
Although I would observe that while fundraising is down, on the next page, we can see that dry powder is up still rather significantly. So there's lots of money to be deployed.
That's a good point. It's definitely very important in this asset class on a continuing basis to make sure to access those top tier funds, as there are a lot of those mega buyout type funds that have a lot of dry powder.
Any further questions from trustees? Okay, thank you. We can move to the next presentation.
Okay, on the Federated pension report, on page 5, I'll just quickly review what happened in the market environment during the first quarter of 2024. It was a really standout quarter. We saw a 10.6 return for the S&P 500 in just that 3-month period between January 1st, 2024 and March 31st, 2024. You can see that similar to some past very strong market environments, U.S. stocks led the way, in particular large caps. You can see that non-U.S. stocks had what is really not considered a very paltry return for a 3-month period at almost 6%, but lagged the United States. And you do continue to see bonds posting negative returns. At the bottom of the slide, you can see Bloomberg Aggregate Index, which is investment-grade bonds, down 0.8% for the first 3 months of 2024. We had a blip in April with some negative market returns, but then since that time, as JUN reported, we've had continuing strong returns. So the S&P 500 was up another 4.8% in this quarter, the second quarter of 2024 through Tuesday. That brings the year-to-date return for the S&P 500 to almost 16%, where we sit today. Bonds have continued to struggle, but they have turned slightly positive. We see a 0.1% return year-to-date for the Bloomberg Aggregate Index. The last consumer price index release or inflation release happened on the 12th of June, and it came in unchanged, which was viewed as positive by the market. We obviously haven't had the interest rate cuts that we came into the year with a lot of folks suggesting, but having inflation not continue to post more increases was viewed positively by the market. We have many other slides here on the market environment, but in the interest of time, I'll get into your specific returns.
Great.
In particular, as you know, we include a watch list in every report. Every manager that has a below benchmark return for either a 3 or 5 year period is listed here. In some cases, these below benchmark returns are below benchmark by something like 0.1%. And in some cases, even a below benchmark return is still significantly outperforming peers. But we do show them here each quarter, and we will work with your investment team to re-underwrite any that we have concerns with. In terms of your retirement system, the total market value as of March 31st was about $3.1 billion.
Page 30.
Page 30, sorry about that. You can see.
You don't like doing that.
I know these reports are very, very long, and I don't want to spend too much time when you have a lot of other things to talk about, so apologies for skipping around.
I'm just
Just
making sure everybody's up to date.
Otherwise, I gotta look up there.
Yes.
All right.
So on page 30, we have the overall allocation and overall market value. You can see the current allocation relative to policy targets. Page 31 starts your fund performance overall. You can see that the total fund returned 3.4% in the first quarter of 2024, bringing the fiscal year to date at that time to 7.6%, the 1 year to 11%, and 3 and 5 years to 5.8 and 8.7% respectively. So you can see here that in general, your long-term returns are significantly outperforming the policy benchmark, the investable benchmark portfolio, the low-cost passive portfolio. You know, we get a lot of questions as investment consultants of, you know, why don't we invest in a 60-40 portfolio and call it a day? And sometimes in some market environments, that would be a good thing. If you look at the trailing 1 year period, that portfolio would have been up 13.3. But then if you take a look to the right and look at the 3 year return, that portfolio would have only earned 1.9%. And that would have been short of your actuarial expected rate of return. So by having a diversified portfolio, the goal is to try to temper that volatility over time by having access to asset classes that zig and zag in different ways. For the trailing quarter and the trailing 1 year period, you can see that returns were really led by global equity. You can see global equity up 25.2% for the trailing year through March 31st. U.S. equity in particular up almost 30% for that trailing 1 year period. And your asset classes in general, you can see here, have been outperforming their benchmarks and peers as well. So not only are you capturing the market return, but something above that in addition. I'll point out one standout asset class in terms of relative returns. You can see emerging markets equity here has a 1 year return of almost 17%, whereas the asset class as a whole was below 10%. So the way that your investment team has invested in emerging markets equity has outperformed the benchmark and peers by quite a bit. The 1 year return for private markets was only 3.5%, but again, if you look at that 3 year period, which includes the 2022 market period where public equities did not do well, you have a 13.8% average annual return for private markets for the past 3 years. We have a lot of other slides in here looking at individual asset classes and individual managers, but in the interest of time, I just want to draw your attention to page 58, where we take a look at risk as well. So far, I've been talking about asset allocation and returns, but we also want to take a look at how much risk the plan is taking, and you can see that the plan has been taking below median risk. So if we take a look at this 3 year timeline, on the far left, you can see that the total fund has ranked in the top quartile of peers. The risk has ranked in the top third of peers, which it means lower risk being a good thing. So the median risk for peers was 10.2. This fund's risk was 8.6. And so the Sharpe ratio in the third column, a measure of risk-adjusted returns, which you want to be on the higher end, has been in the top quartile of the peer group. And that story remains on the next slide as well, which shows the 5 year period. So the plan overall has gained about over $100 million from investment returns in the first quarter of 2024. And I'm happy to answer any questions on the pension before moving on to the healthcare.
Great, thank you. Any questions from trustees?
I have a question. You know, at some point I would think that the people on the city council would wonder if we should be raising our rates. And I think that we have good years and bad years. I suspect the answer is no, but I'm wondering what your, raise our discount rate. What is your thought on that?
Yeah, one of the other large pension plans we work with, the chief investment officer joked that he thinks we should raise the discount rate as quickly as we lowered it when things were going the other direction, which is to say very, very slowly.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you look at that 10 year return, the average return over that 10 year period was 6%. So,
Yes.
you know, I would recommend caution in raising the discount rate just because it makes sense to look at a long-term time period and time horizon relative to recent strong returns.
Thank you.
And I'll just point out, we will, of course, have our annual discussion about that in the fall, I believe in the October timeframe. And that judgment is the purview of this board solely. Any other questions from trustees? Okay, thank you. Move forward to the Healthcare Trust.
Okay, to wrap up with the Healthcare Trust on page
Fantastic.
28 of the Healthcare Trust document, you can see the overall market value of $408 million as of the end of March and the current allocations as well. And as you know, this plan is set up to sort of strategically invest the way that the pension fund is, with a view towards the fact that it can't take on the degree of illiquidity that the pension fund can, and also has a smaller asset size, so can't necessarily access everything that the pension fund can as well. And as we've discussed in the past, this is a bit riskier healthcare trust than the peer group. It has an actuarial assumed rate of return close to that of the pension, which is a little bit higher than peers often expect for their healthcare trust. So when you have a really upmarket environment, that means that your healthcare trust is going to do very, very well within its peer group, and it did that. If you take a look at the 3-month return of 3.7%, that was in the top 12% of the peer group. And if we look at the 5-year period, that return of 6% on average per year within the peer group ranked in the top 6% of plans. The individual asset managers, I won't go through in detail, just given that they're a subset of the ones in your pension trust. But again, just a view towards risk on page 39 here, you can see the returns were quite strong at the top of the peer group. The risk or volatility level was higher than that of peers, but that all shook out to top quartile Sharpe ratio or risk-adjusted return within the peer group as well. And I'm happy to take any questions on the healthcare trust or anything.
Any questions from trustees? Any questions from members of the public? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Move forward to no agenda items under old business. We move forward to new business. For what may be the last time, Mr. Pena, would you like to give us an update?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. So I'll be brief. Our senior analyst position on the pension side was just recently filled, and I'm very excited to report that Jessie Holcomb was actually promoted from within. Jessie actually has been working with us since 2022. She was a return. She actually was in our office from 2009 and 2014, so I got to work with her the first couple of years, and she came back 2 years ago. So congratulations to Giselle, and congratulations one more time. We also had the summer picnic for our office last Friday, June 7th. It was outdoors at the Kelly Park. It was very well attended. We recognized some members of the staff for outstanding work throughout the fiscal year. And I want to publicly thank to all staff members that attended, but also to the committee that put the picnic together. So thank you very much. I also wanted to let you know that ORS will be closed on Thursday, July 4th, in observance of Independence Day. And lastly, wanted to let you know that last Thursday, June 13, I attended the Federated Retiree Association luncheon along with Jay Kwan on behalf of Prabhu Palani. And I want to report a couple of things. The first one is that it was a well-attended outing, and I think everything was well received. And this is one of the items that I actually are going to be missing the most, is actually going out to meet our members, their activities. And it just gave me the opportunity to publicly thank, obviously, Trustee Linder, with all the work that all of you have been engaged the last few months, and the extra hours he's been putting forward with all those meetings on behalf of the board. So that concludes my update, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pena. Did you encounter the mountain lion at Kelly Park?
No, I did not, thank God.
Okay, good. Good. Any other questions from trustees? All right, thank you. We'll move forward to 6B, oral update from the City Council liaison. Ms. Davis?
Good morning.
Good morning.
The City Council passed, as usual, a balanced budget last week, Tuesday, and we had our last meeting on this Tuesday.
don't really know what else to say. It's already been reported that we chose not to pre-fund. So, yeah,
Okay. Any
lots of
que-
discussion, but unanimous vote.
Okay, lot of activity, not much to report. Any questions from trustees?
Should we also mention about the memo that was approved by the council on Tuesday?
Sure. So the city council also continued to direct staff to look at a ballot measure for retirement services. As I think everyone knows, our discussions are ongoing with the Federated and police and fire negotiators. So we have our next meeting tomorrow.
Okay, great. Any further comment? Let's hope those discussions come to a fruitful conclusion. We'll move forward to 6C, discussion action on the city workplace violence prevention plan.
Thank you, Chair. Barbara Heyman, Deputy Director for ORS. So this item is related to California recently implemented a new law regarding workplace violence prevention. The law, the California Labor Code Section 6401.9 becomes enforceable on July 1st, 2024. Employers covered by this law must establish, implement and maintain an effective workplace violence prevention plan. The city has recently developed such a plan, and it's now posted as part of the city policy manual. It was adopted by the City Council on May 30th, 2024, and the plan is that employees will be trained on this plan. The plan does not replace the city's workplace violence policy number 1.3.1, which the board has already adopted, and rather it complements that policy. The boards have adopted several policies, including that workplace violence policy. This policy is for the boards, or this item is for the boards to consider the adoption now of the city's workplace violence prevention plan, and it is policy number 1.3.15 for ORS operations.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from trustees? So we need a formal motion to adopt the policy.
Yes, please.
So moved.
And do we have a second? We have trustee Linder
I second.
and a second from trustee Vice Chair Jennings. Any further discussion? Any public comment? We will vote by roll call. Trustee Faulkner?
Aye.
Trustee Abbott?
Aye.
Trustee Avasti? Trustee Jennings?
Aye.
Vice Chair Jennings? Trustee Linder?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Policy is adopted. Item 6D. Do we still have time? Yeah. Discussion action on pre-approved travel for our trustee Chandra to attend the Public Fund Summit East. This is pretty simple. We now need to approve any
Correct.
travel that is not on the list of
Pre-approved
pre-approved items,
Correct.
and this is not one of the pre-approved ones.
Yes, and I would recommend approval, certainly related to investment related issues, and I think it would be appropriate for trustee Chandra to attend the Public Fund Summit East next month.
I agree. Are there any questions from trustees on this item? I will entertain a motion to approve the travel.
I'll move approval.
We have a motion from trustee Linda. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Vice Chair Jennings. Any further discussion? Any public comment? We'll have a roll call vote. Trustee Faulkner?
Aye.
Trustee Abbott?
Aye.
Trustee Avasti?
Aye.
Trustee Vice Chair Jennings?
Aye.
Gonna get that right eventually. Trustee Linder?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. We're ready to move forward still. I think we can clear some of committee reports. The Investment Committee last met on April 10th, so I don't believe we have anything new to report. And our committee chair is absent today. Move forward to item 7.2, the Audit Committee. Trustee Avasti, Audit Chair Avasti.
The last audit committee meeting was on May 16th. Unfortunately, I was absent. I was sick, but I can try to cover, and then please.
Okay,
feel free
no,
Okay.
no, just, yes, thank you.
to, add if I've missed anything. So before the board, we have the minutes, and then, the city auditor's, report, a follow-up was to present to the council a timeline on the recommendations, and, we have an action item on the memo. The timeline basically is September 30th for the recommendations to be implemented, and I think June 30th for the training of the staff. The next item is an action item on the amendment to the internal auditor charter, which basically is the change is for the appraisal and for the hiring of the internal auditor, whereby an ad hoc audit committee would be involved and advising the CEO for the performance appraisals as well as the hiring. And then I let Roberto update on the custodian bank. I'm sure there must be more updates after the last audit committee meeting. And the last item is for the action, is an action item on the audit plan presented by MGO. We are expecting the reporting by October
Yes.
on the financial audit. Anything you would like to add, Roberto?
Yes, so a couple of things. The first one is that regarding the custodial bank, we just this week actually agreed to the language of the work that is going to be provided by Bank of New York, and I just signed off on it this week. And so they're kicking off the work if they haven't started already. But again, it was I received notification this morning that they have received all the documentation, and again, we need action on the proposed timeline. I think you're correct. Most of the proposals are September 30th, except for I think there may be one or two that are maybe December 31st or a different day. Not all of them are September 30th, but
Okay.
we did include the proposed timeline. That was actually a memo that an info memo that was issued per the request of of Councilmember Davis at the City Council meeting. So it was issued to the City Council members. The internal audit charter need to be approved, of course, as part of this amendment to the charter. Staff is awaiting this approval so that they can kick off the internal auditor search. I will discuss with staff that search. We may kick it off later next month. We may not, pending other issues that the boards are working on. And lastly, I do recommend approval of the presentation by Messias Gini, your financial auditor, who actually presented to the audit committee their audit plan for the coming year, June 30th, 2024. And it was actually approved by your audit committee, and your audit committee is actually recommending your board to approve the financial audit plan. Happy to answer any specific questions.
Okay, so firstly, let's file and receive the minutes from the last session. Are there any questions? So we need to vote and approve items C, D, and F, I believe. Are there any questions on these items?
Each one, just to weigh in on procedure, each one needs to be voted on separately.
We cannot have an omnibus, okay?
Correct.
So any questions then on item C, which is the proposed timeline for implementing the recommendations of the city auditor? If not, I'll entertain a moment to approve the timeline.
I'll make a motion.
I second.
I think trustee Avasti got the
That's
motion
fine.
on that one.
Yep.
Vice Chair Jennings, you had the second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Trustee Faulkner?
Aye.
Trustee Abbott?
Aye.
Trustee Avasti?
Aye.
Vice Chair Jennings?
Aye.
Trustee Linder?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Move on to the internal audit charter revisions. Any questions from trustees? If not, I will entertain a motion to adopt those changes.
I motion to accept it.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Jennings, a second.
I second.
Second from Trustee Avasti. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Trustee Faulkner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Abbott?
Aye.
Trustee Avasti?
Aye.
Vice Chair Jennings?
Aye.
Trustee Linder?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Amendments are adopted. And finally, the audit plan from MGO. Any further trustee questions on that item? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion from trustee Avasti.
I second.
Second from Vice Chair Jennings. Any further comment? Any public comment? Trustee Faulkner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Abbott?
Aye.
Trustee Avasti?
Aye.
Vice Chair Jennings?
Aye.
Trustee Linder?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. So that is adopted. You think I can get through it? You have great faith. Okay. We'll move forward to the Governance Committee. We have about 10 minutes before our time certain item. Oral update from the Chair of the Governance Committee. Mr.
Well,
Linder.
we did meet on
We
Tuesday.
didn't do F.
Beg your
No,
pardon?
we did, you just voted on F.
We did C, D.
There was no vote on item E, none necessary.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
We okay?
Yes, Trustee Linda, please proceed.
So we did meet last Tuesday, and I want to acknowledge that Roberto has been having numerous meetings with the Director of Finance, working through a number of things, and we made an adjustment to the trustee educational travel policy, basically saying 5 conferences a year combined, pre-approved and approved by the board. But otherwise, it's going to be consistent with the changes, and you'll see we have the purchasing procurements. I think Roberto worked out a number of things there that we're going to try to align with the city's policy. And one, I believe this, the final one, we're sending some things back to the finance department for comment, things that we had discussed with Cortex. And I'll take whatever details anybody wants to have. I'm keeping an eye on that ticking.
Sure, and just to chime in here, so the Joint Governance Committee directed council to bring back a red line change to the trustee educational travel policy, so that one will be deferred on action. There's no red line provided with the backup materials to be presented today, and so we'll be back in August with those changes that reflect the Joint Governance Committee, so item 7.3C would be deferred.
Okay, so no vote on C, and we do need to act on D as well as E. So any questions about the, I think you may have set a record here for the number of attachments to a single item, on the purchase and procurement. Any further questions from trustees on item 7.3D?
So on E, can we talk about E?
Well, I wanted to clear D first.
Oh, D.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's purchasing for goods and non-professional services,
Correct.
right?
Right.
And that doesn't include software.
Well, I believe it does include software. The city policy manual 5.1.8, procurement of non-professional services, would also include software.
And so this is where retirement services will utilize the policies and procedures and go through the finance department for those purchases, or not?
Sorry, I misspoke. It was actually city policy manual 5.1.8, which is IT services. I identified the wrong policy.
Okay, so that's not in there.
It is in here.
It is.
Yeah,
For
it's
for
under
software.
7.3D9.
Yes.
Right.
Is that hardware or
It's software. So this,
Oh.
City Manual Policy 5.1.9 covers IT services. This covers hardware, software, professional services relating to the installation, configuration, training, implementation, and maintenance of those items. The finance director is to run the procurement process, and that's what that policy pertains to.
I thought we had some issues on the software. That's my only concern. My only concern overall, I have no issue with the finance department running. I know they do a good quality job, and so that is not my issue. My only issue is that I know that procurement within the city of San Jose is backlogged. And there are times when we need to have certain things done, and if we're waiting in the queue with all the other departments for our pension gold or any of our other critical systems, I have an issue with that. So,
Do you have changes that red line to the policy that we're being asked to approve today that you would like to?
I want to know
Include.
that if any of these software or purchasing that deals with our ability to pay our pensioners, our retirees, or our services for investment team, that those two are not going to be delayed by the backlog that is going on within procurement, okay? That is what I have an issue on.
Yeah, Trustee Jennings, the next item E, deals with procurement for critical plant administrative services and goods for ORS operations, and I believe the types of services and hardware you were talking about, that would be covered under E, not D.
Are we sure about that?
Well, this would be an area we would meet and confer with the finance director to see, to what extent our policy would apply versus what the policy for the city would apply.
So is that in E and not D?
So I'm sorry, so just for the clarity of record, 7.3, agenda item E specifically does cover our pension administration system. The city policies that are provided under item 7.3D are very broad policies that would also arguably also cover and overlap with the other policy that is presenting to the board that Cortex prepared. And so as Roberto's working through a lot of these issues with the finance director, this would be another area we would meet and confer. But I believe the Joint Governance Committee's recommendation from Tuesday's meeting was to adopt all the city policies under Chapter 5.1, and then try to work out with the finance director areas where there are any issues that may arise.
So are we adopting these before we have a supplemental agreement?
Yes, so.
I thought that was
yes,
something we didn't want to do.
You're absolutely right, and I mentioned at the governance committee meeting that going forward, we have to make sure that we have meetings with the city staff first and then bring them back to the board, but I don't see anything wrong with approving these and still speaking to the finance director or any other area of the city, and if there are any changes that we can work out, I can always come back to the board for approval. Just like we did the trustee policy, you remember you approved that before we had the discussion, and I came back with the recommendation by the finance director, same approach. But we want to make sure that going forward, we don't do that anymore. We actually meet with the city staff first, and then we come to the board.
Okay, so I'm still a little confused, but let me say this again. If we approve the ones in particular that I'm
Yes.
most concerned about,
Yes.
and then, so the finance director, through purchasing and all, now goes forth and does it, and they are backlogged, and we are waiting a year or a year and a half, because that is kind of what is happening in the city, then if that is what is happening, then you come back to us?
No,
and-
no,
all right.
that's not what I said. What I said
Okay.
is that we will meet with the finance director in the next few months
Yes,
to work out the details of all these policies. And if there are any further changes recommended, we will come back before you to approve whatever recommended changes we, as an Office of Retirement Services and Finance, as the finance office for the city of San Jose, work out. So we will bring to you any input from them and from us if there are any potential changes. Ideally, those changes will be to avoid exactly what you are anticipating so that we don't have to have those situations happen. But I think we either work with the finance department or we do not. If we're going to work with them, we want to make sure that we agree how things are supposed to work.
Julie, my understanding is that there are 3 policies in D,
Mhm.
which are sole source, correct me if I'm wrong, non-professional services and IT, which are applicable on everything, right? All, the entire gamut.
right.
So apparently there can be a perceived conflict between these 3 policies, which are applicable on everything, and 5E, which is we are like carving out the critical services for us. And in order to ensure that there is no confusion among the staff, that these critical services are actually governed by 5E, there is going to be a discussion that Roberto will potentially have with finance director. Am I saying it right?
So as a procedural matter, we can approve all of these now, and if issues arise,
Yeah.
then we can
Come back.
revisit and make changes to the policies that we adopt as ORS.
But we need the
Or
agreement.
conversely,
Yeah,
we could pull that particular item, 73D9, and approve the rest of it without that item. But that's not the recommendation from the governance committee,
Yes. The joint is actually, it came out of the joint
Joint.
governance group.
joint governance committee. And we are addressing this issue, if it were approved today, with this side letter
Right,
that was discussed.
that's what I would say.
I
okay,
don't want to
so we're
confuse any
approving it.
side letter
Okay.
to that, to the
Yeah.
conversations that we're having with the finance director.
Mhm.
The basic I can offer you,
Yeah.
by share,
Mhm.
Janice, is just to look at the item we just approved on the
Mhm.
trustee policy, travel policy for trustees, similar concept. You approved that policy, we discussed it with the finance director after the fact, and we brought back recommended changes to it. Same concept. You approve it. Now, granted, we don't want to continue this approach of approving it before we get a chance to discuss it with them, but we already went to the governance committee. We did promise to the city that we were going to be approving all the policies that we had not adopted, so we are doing so. But that's not stopping us as in the Office of Retirement Services staff, to have discussions with the city staff on particulars on some of these policies to make sure that we are all in agreement how are things going to be processed and work going forward. So after those discussions take place, if we have any further recommendations to change this language, we will bring them forward to you, just like we did with the trustee travel policy.
And then we can implement.
Of course, yes.
And then,
Or not approve.
or
It's up to you.
rescind.
Yes.
All right.
All right?
I am fine with the policies. I am just not fine with the delay that's going on in procurement. I just want to say that again. And I am a city employee, and I have experienced this delay, and I know there are multiple, departments that are served, and it's not, I'm trying, it's more hiring, training, and processing that is more an issue that's going on in procurement, not staff unable to do their jobs.
Mhm.
So I just know how critical is that we pay our retirees. And for that reason, that is the only reason I'm bringing this up. And I'm sure council can address some of these issues with finance or help them staff accordingly if that's needed, because departments are suffering because of this delay. So I just throw that out there. Parks and Rec, you know, there was a 9-month delay to do an open purchase order, which was absolutely something unheard of the day when I actually used to, you know, be in that kind of oversight. So there are concerns going on with the processing, and this department, ORS, cannot afford that. Okay, so I will approve this, but I will approve this based on the intention of City Council to make sure that the procurement department, the unit within finance is addressed. Okay, I'll leave it at that.
Well, we'll certainly keep an eye on this area, but at this moment, I will entertain a motion to approve 7.3D as recommended by the Joint Governance Committee with all of the attachments therein. Do we have such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion from trustee Linder. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a second from trustee Abbott. Any further discussion from trustees? Any public comment? We will vote. Trustee Faulkner?
No, I believe that's maybe somebody else.
No, I'm asking for your vote on item 7.3D.
I thought a public comment might have been coming, sorry.
Is that,
Aye.
do we have a public comment? No? Okay. I did see somebody else intervening there on the Zoom. But go ahead. That's an aye from trustee Faulkner. Trustee Abbott?
Aye.
Trustee Avasti?
Aye.
Vice Chair Jennings?
Aye.
Trustee Linder?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. 7.3D is approved. We will take up 7.3E after our time certain item, which is item, going back to my agenda, it is a disability hearing. It is item 1A.
Yeah, it's at the beginning.
Thank you, way back to the beginning, okay. Okay. And we have a specific script here. There's an application for a service-connected disability retirement for Colleen Brennan. And Colleen Brennan, are you here, present? Thank you.
There she is.
Okay. We have a number of questions to confirm. Colleen Brennan, will you be presenting the same information, documents, and witnesses to the board that you presented to the Disability Committee when the Disability Committee heard your case on April 2nd, 2024?
Yes, however, I have several clarifications to those same items.
Okay. I believe that qualifies as a yes under my script. Will you please confirm that you received, Ms. Brennan, that you received the staff letter dated May 20th, 2024, notifying you of this board meeting?
Yes, I received it.
Thank you. Can you confirm that the documents in your file are directly relevant to your disability retirement application?
Yes, they are.
Very good. Please identify the witnesses who will be testifying on your behalf.
Myself only.
Yourself. I would like to introduce Councilor Ricada. He is our board legal advisor to summarize the committee's position, basis of the position, and evidence in the records supporting his position. His memo is introduced in the file. We will hear from Mr. Ricada. Is he present here or by Zoom?
By Zoom.
Hi.
Oh.
I am present on my iPhone via Zoom. Unfortunately, there seem to be some technical difficulties in having me zoom into the meeting.
I
But
see.
I hope you can all hear me, and perhaps it's sufficient to just hear my oral comments and not to see my shining visage. So let me present the comments. As you know, the Disability Committee that met in April is recommending the denial of Ms. Brennan's application. The date the committee focused on was Ms. Brennan's date of separation in March 2022. The committee recognized her 20 years of service with the city, but also recognized that the burden of persuasion is on Ms. Brennan, which she is to satisfy via the submission of medical evidence, and the committee did not inappropriately give Ms. Brennan the benefit of the doubt, instead analyze the medical evidence. The job position that's the focus of the inquiry is Ms. Brennan's position as Senior Executive Analyst in the Office of Economic Development. And the condition being raised by Ms. Brennan in this application is her mental health and anxiety symptoms. In terms of the history, these symptoms developed in 2022. But as of March 2022, when Ms. Brennan separated from the city, she was working full duty without any work restrictions. And the Dr. Lopez notes in his report that as the following summer in 2022, Ms. Brennan was again working for the city in the same capacity, but as an independent contractor, not as an employee. Now, with respect to the issues before the board is familiar that there are two issues. One, whether or not, as of March 2022, Ms. Brennan was incapacitated from performing the duties of Senior Executive Analyst, and that inquiry has two elements. First, were there any permanent work restrictions appropriate for Ms. Brennan in March of 2020? And if so, could the department accommodate those work restrictions? In your file is the report by psychiatrist Alberto Lopez, where his work restriction was that Ms. Brennan should not work, except occasionally, more than 40 hours a week. Sarah Steele, in her February 2024 memo on behalf of the department, indicated that the department could accommodate those work restrictions. Since the department could accommodate those work restrictions, the conclusion inescapably has to be that Ms. Brennan was not incapacitated as of March 2022, and that was the conclusion of the Disability Committee. The committee further noted that Dr. Lopez, with respect to the second issue, which we don't really get to because we haven't come out in favor of Ms. Brennan on the first issue of incapacity. But the second issue is service connection, and Dr. Lopez, in his report, did find that her employment with the city did contribute to the permanent work restriction that he established. Now, we do note that Ms. Brennan indicates that that permanent work restriction was not in effect in March 2022, and that is the case. But there weren't any other permanent work restrictions in effect, so that even if we looked at what was in effect in March 2022, there were no permanent work restrictions in effect, and therefore no ability to conclude that Ms. Brennan was incapacitated. But we do note that we don't agree with the underlying premise of that this permanent work restriction was not in effect in, or was not, was only brought forward by Dr. Lopez's report that occurred quite a bit after March 2022. But that focus is irrelevant. The process that Ms. Brennan was engaged in March 2022, whatever options were available to her under, for example, the Americans with Disability Act or whatever, those were all, or under the appropriate labor contract, if relevant. All of those issues are separate and distinct and had to be resolved then to the degree they were going to be resolved. In the process the board is currently involved in is a separate and distinct process which has its own rules, including the procedure under which it sends out applications to independent evaluations, such as that done by Dr. Lopez. So it is irrelevant to the board's consideration, or so we assert, as to what was or was not provided to Ms. Brennan in March of 2022. The bottom line is he was working full duty without any permanent work restrictions at that time. So that constitutes a summary of the committee's deliberations and conclusions and recommendation to this board.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Requeda. Is the Return to Work Coordinator present?
Yes, there is still.
Very
City Council
good.
Return to Work Coordinator.
Do you have anything you wish to add to what Mr. Requeda told us?
I do not.
Do not, okay. So, Ms. Brennan, at this time, please present your testimony to support your application.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to correct a statement that was just made by the gentleman. I did not work again for the city of San Jose during the summer of 2022 as a consultant. That is an incorrect statement.
Okay.
Thank you. So I thank you for the opportunity to provide some additional clarification. I believe that the Disability Committee's recommendation to deny my disability retirement was based on a false assumption by the independent medical examiner. And I was not aware of this assumption until I saw the report in the committee meeting packet, so I was unable to correct it at any previous time. As a little bit of background, the nature of my job during the time of the disability was that in addition to my regular 40-hour per week position, I had to develop and implement programs to use the coronavirus relief funding to help city businesses and residences affected by the pandemic. A key thing to know is that each of these funding programs had a drop-dead date by which the funds had to be distributed to the recipients. If the funds were not spent by the deadline, the city might have been subject to disallowed costs and have to repay the funds. So it was of utmost importance that these programs be completely implemented before the deadlines. That was the most important thing about my job, aside from helping the residents and businesses. Those deadlines were the biggest thing. Additional things that contributed to the anxiety was that the final rules for these programs had not yet been published until after the programs had to start. So I had to actually design these programs without knowing what the parameters and restrictions and rules of the programs were going to be. During this time, I would receive several calls per day from my supervisor requesting updates. These by themselves were not the stressor, even though sometimes the updates requested were so frequent that there could not possibly have been any change. But that wasn't the stressor. The stressor was that I had to take time to do the work of reporting to the supervisor, implementing what-if situations or whatever he was asking of me, and that left less time for me to do the work before the deadlines. Then, on one of the programs, nearly 100% of the subrecipient staff got coronavirus. And this was at a time when coronavirus could have been a death sentence. But at a minimum, they couldn't do their job, which meant less time to get the program done in time. So progress came to a near halt because of that, because the director of the subrecipient actually was doing the boots on the ground work, because he was the only well person. And then, just as one grant program was nearing its deadline, additional funding came through and more programs had to be developed. So during this time, which began way before 2022, this was during the whole time I was doing this in 2021. In fact, my initial doctor's appointment regarding this, all this stress and anxiety was before 2022. I was diagnosed with acute stress disorder and anxiety disorder. And that's not just being nervous or stressful about your job. This was panic attacks. My heart would be pounding. I would get so much anxiety that I could not breathe. I could not function because I was at a complete halt in my life because I could not breathe. My heart was pounding. I was unable to even move during these attacks. And this would sometimes occur several times a day as the work would, these challenges that I described would, become evident. Consequently, once again, during these times, I could not do the work that I was on a drop-dead timeline to complete. So it wasn't the overwork, it was the deadlines. I mean, as a senior executive analyst, I was used to working more than 40 hours per week. That alone did not bother me. It was the nature of the deadlines by which I had to complete the work that was the stressor. Now, the independent medical examiner's report stated that disability was due to unusually high workload resulting from additional tasks assigned during the coronavirus pandemic, and that's true. But the disability was not due to working excessive hours per week. The disability was due to the amount of work that had to be done by that hard deadline. So, consequently, the suggested accommodation of not working more than 40 hours per week would actually result in more anxiety and stress, not less. It would have made the disability worse, because that would mean that I would have additional anxiety that the work would not be done by the deadline. So that is why if I had known about that presumed accommodation, I would have said, no, that is not an appropriate accommodation for this disability at all. I began work on the various CARES Act grants in early 2020, and it was ongoing, and the programs continued after I retired. And I first reported my mental health condition to my supervisor and submitted a workers' comp form in January of 22, because at that time I realized that I had been doing this job and getting more and more sick and more anxious throughout that time, and that was when I first realized that I was sick because of the job. So I applied for retirement in February of 2022. And although my date of separation was March 18th, 2022, I took vacation and leave time between the time I applied for retirement and the time I actually stopped working. So I was actually first seen by the Intercare Workers' Compensation physician after I had stopped working. So after I stopped working, the anxiety did improve because I was no longer doing the thing that caused the anxiety. So I continued under psychiatric and psychological care throughout May of 2022. And these sessions reported, as you can see in these documents, that my mental health improved. Of course it improved. I was no longer doing the thing that caused the anxiety. So I first received the notification of the workplace restriction of not working over 40 hours per week when I received the packet for the Disability Retirement Committee meeting. So I didn't even know that this accommodation was being recommended. So the accommodation was based on the relevant date of the evaluation, which was March of 2022, when I was no longer working for the city. That accommodation was never suggested to me, nor was I asked if this would be an appropriate accommodation for my disability. But even if it were appropriate, it wouldn't have been possible because it wasn't suggested until after I had already left working for the city. So, in conclusion, I want to state that the accommodation suggested for my disability was not appropriate. I was never asked what kind of accommodation was needed for my disability. I was not informed of any accommodation for my disability in time to prevent the additional anxiety. Even if that accommodation had been put in place, I would have needed to discuss with someone the possibility of working some different position that didn't require those conditions, but that never happened. So the independent medical evaluator indicated in his report that my disability met the disability guidelines. Disability guidelines of a disability which renders the member physically or mentally incapable of continuing to satisfactorily assume the responsibilities and perform the duties and functions of the position then held by him as determined by the retirement board on the basis of competent medical opinion. The acute and severe anxiety attacks rendered me mentally incapable of continuing to satisfactorily assume the responsibilities and perform the duties and functions of the position then held by me. No transfer to any other position was offered. The original report states that Dr. Torres diagnosed me with an anxiety disorder and further stated that this was primarily industrial. Further responses on the supplemental report state that I sustained cumulative trauma injury to my mental health while working for the city of San Jose. All statements regarding improvement in the supplemental report are as of the stated relevant date of the evaluation after I had stopped working for the city. So because of these additional considerations, I respectfully ask that you reconsider the recommendation to deny the disability retirement. And I thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, Rutherford Hayes here. May I be permitted to respond?
Yes, I do want to ask just a couple of quick clarifying questions on some of the issues Ms. Brennan raised. One is, at what point was the disability packet communicated to her prior to the disability hearing?
I don't have the exact date handy, but it was, I think I received it in US mail, and it was however many days before the disability committee meeting it's required to distribute the materials. I don't know the exact date.
Okay.
But I know that is like maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the meeting.
So a few weeks perhaps. And for the return to work, does one normally discuss the accommodation with the employee, or is that something that is discussed with the independent medical examiner only?
So it depends on which way the restrictions are coming to our office. If the restrictions would have come, from Ms. Brennan while she was actively employed with the city, we would engage her in an interactive process where we would have the work restrictions from her healthcare professional. And then we would talk about potential accommodations, and that's a process that happens with the employee as well as the supervisor and myself as the return to work coordinator. When it's post-employment or it's coming from the IME, the IME restrictions are provided to me in my capacity as a return to work coordinator, and then it's evaluated and I have a conversation with the department. So we wouldn't be engaging in an interactive process with Ms. Brennan if she wasn't an active employee. We would be looking at it and analyzing if these restrictions were in place, would we be able to accommodate? And the answer was yes.
Okay, so the normal procedure is if someone wasn't currently employed, you would not have that discussion.
Correct. We would not have a conversation if they weren't
potential
currently employed.
Okay,
We could, if they were wanting to come back, we could.
I see. Okay. Mr. Ikeda, go ahead.
I think the key issue is the issue just set forth by Ms. Steele. We don't want to mix apples and oranges. The apple is as Ms. Steele just described, while Ms. Brennan was working, she had every opportunity to go to her own position and obtain work restrictions from that position. Her description of her own condition, well, presumably accurate, several years have passed, but her description is not medical evidence. It has not been evaluated by, as of the relevant time, when the opportunity was available to her for her to get permanent work restrictions from her physician. She's the one, only the one, who knew what the various deadlines were imposing on her, and imposed on her, presumably, quite a heavy burden. That was the time when she would have been able to avail herself of going to her own physician and obtaining work restrictions, which he then would have submitted to a department, and accommodations then could have been discussed. That was its own separate proceeding that wasn't pursued by Ms. Brennan. There were no permanent work restrictions in effect as of February or March, neither, and the relevant of the actual date is irrelevant to the issue. So there were no permanent work restrictions, and so no accommodations made then. We are in a different situation. Yes, we have the report by Dr. Lopez. I think that report is persuasive, but you have heard Ms. Brennan's criticisms of it. But note the consequence of ignoring Dr. Lopez's or deciding Dr. Lopez's permanent work restrictions are not based in medical fact. Then we are left in no better position, because then in the record before you, there are no permanent work restrictions applicable to Ms. Brennan as of February or March 2022. And so so in the absence of permanent work restrictions, there would be no basis for finding incapacity. And again, the Disability Committee focuses on the medical evidence, and the testimony by Ms. Brennan, though understandable, is not medical evidence.
Ms. Brennan,
That concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Requeda. Ms. Brennan, would you like to?
My comments
Comment
weren't
on that?
new information. My comments were all regarding the information in the medical examiner's report. And as far as being able to ask for and receive an accommodation prior, I don't know how I was supposed to know this. Having a disability is not something I was used to. It was not a process I was familiar with. I think the presumption is that I should have done something in the years prior that I didn't know about and didn't even know how to know about.
The board can take that certainly into consideration, but I think the board can also use their common sense when someone is having the degree and nature of symptoms that Ms. Brennan reported to you. I think people know to go to doctors, and seemingly doctors do go. Perhaps that was not Ms. Brennan's assumption, but at some point, unreasonable actions by applicants cannot form the basis for granting a disability retirement application.
Are there
With
any?
all due respect, if you're
Go
going
ahead.
to use your common sense, can you also use your common sense about whether restricting the number of hours of work is a reasonable accommodation to having to complete something on a deadline?
So can I speak to that really quick?
Please.
Not working over 40 hours is not an accommodation, that's actually a restriction. So the doctor is providing us with restrictions indicating a number of hours that an employee can work, and then obviously the accommodation would be going through and evaluating and what projects and what tasks and what duties is the person performing to ensure that they are not working over 40 hours more than occasionally. So I want to be mindful in our terminology that no working over 40 hours a week more often than occasionally is a work restriction, not an accommodation. Having that restriction, we would go through and determine what needs to be structured, how does that work from that restriction. So I just want to make sure we're clear on verbiage.
And what is the difference between a restriction and an accommodation?
So a restriction would be something that limits somebody's ability. You have a list of job duties. If somebody's restricted from doing something, they can't lift more than 5 pounds. They need a 5-minute typing break. They can't work more than 8 hours a day or more than 6 hours a day. Those are all restrictions. And then we take those in and we determine what reasonable accommodations is the city able to provide. So if you have somebody that needs to take a 5-minute break every hour, How do we do that, and what does it look like? So we can structure their workday where they get a 5-minute break from typing every hour. If we have an employee who can't work more than 6 hours a day and they're at, 30 hours a week, what tasks and what assignments can we have them do during that period to allow them to be efficient and productive during their workday, but not assign and expect them to do 40 hours worth of work in a 30-hour work week, right?
Okay,
So
so-
those types of things would be accommodation.
So the accommodation is how we deal with the restriction.
Correct.
Is it conceivable, if I understand Ms. Brennan correctly, the accommodation or restriction that contributes to her disability is not the work hours, it's the meeting of deadlines? Is it conceivable to have a position where one doesn't need to meet deadlines?
I would say that, that would probably be a difficult restriction for an employer to accommodate. I think in every job, there's probably varying levels. So, it would definitely be something we would need to talk more about.
Okay.
I can say that, if somebody needs, what you would expect somebody to take an hour to read material in, if somebody needed, an hour and a half to read that same amount of material, right? So there might be some things that there might be some flexibility on, but overall, I would say, it's hard to kind of move a deadline, especially if deadlines are out of our control. So
Right.
so that would be our
Okay.
But again, those were matters that should have been discussed in March 2022.
Mhm.
Perhaps there was additional personnel that could have been brought on board. Perhaps other things could have been done, or the workload could have just been shifted to Ms. Brennan. All things that we do not now know, and the opportunity for which was not availed of because the city was not aware of any medical restrictions that Ms. Brennan could have obtained from her physician.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ikeda. Trustees, any questions for any of the witnesses? So it seems to me that the nub of the issue is whether or not it was reasonable to expect Ms. Brennan to understand that she needed to obtain independent medical evidence of deadlines being the source of her disability in the time that this was considered in March of 2022.
I respectfully
That's not
demur
right.
to that characterization of the issue.
Yeah.
The issue is, whether or not to grant the application in the factual context that's before you.
Russ,
I
this
think
is,
the factual context is that Ms. Brennan did not seek medical evidence.
Right.
There was no permanent work restrictions in effect of that date. And the subsequent IME report by Dr. Lopez provided a permanent work restriction, which the department could accommodate.
Mhm.
Russ, this is Trustee Jennings. Can you just, for those who are not on the Disability Committee, reiterate the decision points that we need to consider when coming up with a service disability?
And I certainly will.
Thank
And
you.
in this context, the important issues are on the issue of incapacity. And that issue has two sub-issues. The first sub-issue is whether there are any permanent work restrictions that were appropriate for the applicant as of the date of separation. And that those permanent work restrictions can come from, ultimately, they're reviewed by our outside retained examiners. That examiner can review the whole medical file, and in many cases, not in this one, there are workers' comp reports that have permanent work restrictions, some before the date of separation, some near the date of separation, some after the date of separation that relate back to the time period of the date of separation, or there may be relevant imaging studies or reports by primary care physicians, perhaps Kaiser physicians, if the member has Kaiser, that also indicate permanent work restrictions and/or a situation of modified duty and the work restrictions appropriate for modified duty. We often see that in many of the applications that come before them. All of that was absent here. So there's nothing about permanent work restrictions as of the date of separation. And I would think it would be very unwise for the board
Which
to
is one of the
somehow engage in a
requirements.
very difficult issue of whether an applicant knew or was ignorant of their ability to seek medical care when they're having significant medical symptoms. I don't think that's an issue that we have really any evidence on other than the assertion of the applicant, who obviously has a self-interest in the outcome. But once permanent work restrictions are established, and again, that would be by the independent outside examiner on the basis of all the medical records available, and then if the outside examiner identifies permanent work restrictions, then as Ms. Steele indicated, those restrictions go to the department to see whether or not the department could have accommodated them. So again, it's in the context of our procedure being totally distinct and dissimilar from the very elaborate procedure described by Ms. Steele that's in conformance with the Americans with Disability Act and has the extensive interactive program that hopefully will be positive for the employees who participate in it, but that process, elaborate as it is, can only be triggered by the individual employee coming to the city with work restrictions and saying, let's work these out. That did not happen here. And I think that's the critical elements of this case, and persuaded the Disability Committee to recommend denial of the application.
Excuse me, but I'm looking for it in the record here, but within this packet that I received, there is evidence that I did go to the doctor before March of 22. I did go to my Kaiser doctor, my regular Kaiser doctor. And the doctor did, in fact, and this is in here somewhere, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble finding the right page, but the Kaiser doctor did suggest that I take time off. And on my doctor's suggestion, I did take time off. And I returned to work with an enormous pile of work waiting for me that, of course, had not gotten done while I took time off. So taking time off on my doctor's suggestion before this,
But with respect,
it occurred.
I don't believe that refutes the notion that we did not, evidence was not presented specifically about deadlines being the trigger for disability. I think that's...
Or if I may, I apologize for jumping in, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
What was just stated is irrelevant to the issue. The issue is permanent work restrictions. That physician did not provide permanent work restrictions, and accordingly, no permanent work restrictions were provided to the city. That is what's germane here, not whether or not, and actually going, so Ms. Brennan obviously felt bad enough to actually go to her physician and receive that recommendation, but that was not provided to the city, and that recommendation is far different than permanent work restrictions. We also note that once Ms. Brennan left the city, her symptoms did ameliorate, and thank goodness for that. That also suggests the permanent work restrictions, if they had been identified and provided to the city, we don't know for sure because it never happened, may have been able to result in the same positive conclusion. So it again raises doubts on whether there were any need for permanent work restrictions as opposed to accommodations that may have been possible. Yes, I'm talking probabilistic language. We don't know now if they would or would not have been possible, but that all stems from the fact that none were provided to the city then, and the only ones that are now in the record is that one of Dr. Lopez. And all of that militates against the application because there's not a rational basis for concluding incapacity.
Any other questions from trustees? So I think we conclude the hearing and then we actually vote on the disability.
That's correct, and just so the board is aware, so there is a definition within the Muni Code that does define disability, and that's the threshold where we are looking for that will allow them to get the disability retirement. There's two types, right? There's non-service disability and then there's service. So the first question is always, is there a disability within the meaning of the Muni Code? And the Muni Code defines, as Ms. Brennan indicated, disability is incapacity for the performance of duty and incapacitated for the performance duty when used as a basis for retirement under the system means disability of a member short of death of permanent or extended and uncertain duration occurring while such member is an employee of the city in the Federated City Service of the city as a result of injury or disease, except in cases of mental derangement, the cause therefore, for purpose of this section only, shall be disregarded, which renders the member physically or mentally incapable of continuing to satisfactorily assume the responsibilities and perform the duties and functions of the position then held by him or her and of any other position in the same classification of positions to which the city may offer to transfer him or her as determined by the independent medical panel or upon appeal by the administrative law judge on the basis of competent medical opinion. It does not mean mere physical or mental inability to assume the responsibilities or perform said duties. So that's the Muni Code's definition of disability under which this board shall determine the matter.
Okay. So at this point, I'm going to close the hearing. We've heard from the witnesses and they have had a chance to hear each other and rebut, and trustees have had an opportunity to question the witnesses. So the hearing is concluded, and now the trustees will discuss our findings on the hearing. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
In the committee, we looked at all the documentation provided. We particularly looked at the independent medical examiner's reports. We also heard from our staff, from Ms. Steele, and obviously from Russ. And Ms. Brennan was there as well to testify. And we concluded with all the information that was provided us, and all of us read all this information in advance, as well as take it all in, that's why we took the action to deny it. But this is the opportunity to for Ms. Brennan to give her counterpoint and for us to take a look at that. But that was the way we look at all the cases, including hers. We take them seriously.
Okay. Any comments from other trustees? At the disability hearing, I don't think there's any question on the facts that the issue of deadlines versus work hours was not brought up in a timely manner, and that no evidence was presented about that when the independent medical examiner looked at it, and that an independent of the independent medical examiner put forward any evidence that a deadline was the triggering restriction for the disability. Is that an issue that was considered at the disability hearing?
I actually don't remember.
Okay.
I'll chime in. I don't recall that being a part of the discussion.
Yeah.
Trustee Faulkner here.
Okay.
Regarding deadlines versus amount of work versus time and stress. I remember a lot of the discussion at the hearing going towards our guidelines for understanding what constitutes a disability retirement. And as Councilor Requeda mentioned, the major focus was, are there permanent work restrictions? And then if there are, can the city accommodate? And if someone comes in with permanent work restrictions and the city cannot accommodate, that would be a check mark on they have this specific purpose. But this came in with no permanent work restrictions that we could even see, which wouldn't allow us to determine first off that the city could accommodate. There was none, so the city obviously could accommodate because there weren't any. And then secondly, if there were some, and we now have a piece of paper that shows 40 hours, the discussions could have been had to be in the position or the equivalent position, but that never happened. So we, following the as fair but flexible guidelines as we can regarding the disability decision, to come down to, therefore, we decided to deny the case from my perspective, as I recall, given that there were no permanent work restrictions.
Thank you, Matthew.
As well as the medical,
Right.
Yeah.
and the independent medical examiner and what was on, you know, and if you read through that, you'll see that there, it just doesn't qualify.
Well, it seems to me that the Disability Committee did make the right decision based on the evidence and information you had at the time. And what is potentially new here today is a slight wrinkle, which is whether or not different evidence could have been presented in a timely manner had the applicant known that the issue was the type of restriction and accommodation that could be offered.
I think.
Let me address that issue
Okay.
because it's important to understand that the applicant has the responsibility to provide all the evidence. It's completely up to the applicant. They can do it themselves. They can request attorney to help them through the process. But ultimately, the committee can only address the issues that are brought forward and the evidence that is brought forward by the candidate or by the applicant in this case. So it's completely the responsibility of the applicant to, just like she has done very well this morning, explaining her situation, to bring that evidence forward. We cannot, as a committee, I'm not a committee member, but obviously from staff, really do the work for the applicant. So what you have here this morning is you have to make a decision based not only on what has been said, but the evidence that have been brought forward. And I'll just defer to counsel. He understands this much better than I do. Your responsibility is to make a decision on the evidence being brought forward. And in this case, I think is pretty clear that the evidence does not support providing a service connected disability. Having said that, I defer, again, I defer to counsel if he wants to make any other comments, to staff or any other of the board members from the committee. Thank you.
I would like to make a comment. I hope I'm not repeating myself.
Well, I think we closed out the hearing, so I'm not even sure.
So let me just chime in. So we did adopt our disability retirement application process here. It does provide that if there is new information, additional findings and conclusions that need to be specified or determined by the disability committee, we can defer it back to the committee to take a look at it, subject to the board's agreement to do that. So your various options today, sitting here today, to either one, grant the application, two, send it back to the disability committee for further factual finding and recommendation, or three, deny the application under our policies.
Okay. So it seems to me that even now today at this late date, we have not heard medical evidence that the deadlines are the triggering factor for disability. And that would be the necessary, in my mind, necessary requirement for reconsideration of the prior judgment of the disability board. So it seems to me we have probably two. Ms. Castellano, please go ahead.
Well, I do want to comment because I think Ms. Steele did talk a little bit about the work restriction versus accommodation, and that, when the doctor is recommending that she not work more than 40 hours a week, more than occasionally, that it is, in the typical process, the city's job to look at what's reasonable to be done within a 40-hour work week. So I think that is baked into what the doctor was saying. While Ms. Brennan's assuming that that restriction means her current job wouldn't change, she would just have to do everything with 40 hours a week, I think Ms. Steele said to the contrary, that the accommodation process would look at, okay, what's your job now? And what could be done in a 40-hour work week? So I'm not sure that I agree that the deadline is necessarily excluded from what the doctor's recommendation it was.
Yeah,
But if
it
you-
certainly strikes me that the number of hours has to do with workload and that it is generally correlated with deadlines. But I think what I'm hearing is Ms. Brennan particularly suffered from the fact that there were very sharp and drop-dead deadlines that needed to be met in however many hours. It could be 30 hours a week, but it was the pressure of meeting the deadlines which were debilitating. I think we need to decide whether or not to kick this back based on what little new evidence there is to the Disability Committee or
Why
to.
don't we see if you get a motion?
I
where
have
we
a
go.
question.
Mhm.
Even if we push back to the Disability Committee and we see now the new information is about the deadlines, I guess there is a checklist that needs to be met. And if it's not going to impact the checklist, then I'm not sure what Disability Committee is going to review again.
I think the only evidence would be if there was a report from a medical doctor stating that deadlines in and of themselves are a debilitating factor and that needs to be accommodated somehow. I'm not
And
sure,
that
I'm not
is-
sure
and-
that
and-
would be presented or if that could exist, but that would, in my mind, the only possible reason.
And can the medical examiner, so the medical examiner has to assess this at the date of retirement?
I'm
I'm
not-
sorry, I can't hear her.
She's asking if a new medical examination would determine the relevance of deadlines by themselves, would that be determined as of today, as of the date of retirement, or as of some other
At
date?
what point?
At what point could that be determined? So,
I see.
May I just jump in?
Council Chin?
Yes, so the work restrictions relate to to an injury, right? So the type of injury to which work restrictions relate to are injuries of permanent or extended duration. So that would be the threshold issue for determining, is there a qualifying disability, under which we then move on to the second question as, okay, there is a permanent and extended injury there. Can we then look to see what are the work restrictions and can we then accommodate them? So I did want to just bring back the focus that it is a two-step analysis. There first needs to be a permanent and extended injury during service of to the city, and then from there look at the work restrictions.
Okay.
And the focus is at the date of separation.
But my point being, the reason why I bring it up is to Trustee Abbasi's point, is this the sort of information that goes to one of those pieces of analysis? Does it go to the question of, is this a qualifying disability? Okay, if it is, okay, is this a work restriction that the city could accommodate? I'm not so sure in the first question, right? Is this a disability of permanent and extended nature? So that might be something you may want to send back to the Disability Committee or discuss here.
Do you want to mention something?
I just cannot emphasize enough and echo the words by Sandra Castellano on the 40-hour week. I'm big on analogies, and I got to tell you, this 40-hour week, or the hours at work and the deadlines, sounds to me like the issue with the chicken or the egg. What comes first? I mean, you either work more hours and meet the deadlines, or you work less hours and don't meet the deadlines. But I mean, I see many applications over the years, and I'm a little disappointed that we may have to go back to a disability committee on that particular issue. I mean, it's not as if you specifically talking about, a more tangible, right, physical determination or even mental, but when you're making a distinction between the hours work and the deadlines, I mean, that to me is a difficult situation for me to grasp. I guess I could argue here that if I think the member mentioned the hours work was not an issue with them. Maybe we should have worked 60 hours and made the deadlines. And then then there would be no disability. Or don't work the 40 hours and then you have the issue with the deadlines. But I don't see how you can have disability on one side of that but not the other. Because I think you even mentioned just now, you can see how they coincide. So I'm just, actually a little,
Well, and can I just,
not clear.
I think we've heard everybody. Can you, if you want to put forward a motion, put forward a motion. But I think
Well,
it's time to bring this to closure.
I believe it is, and I think it is a thin rhetorical distinction between hours worked and deadlines. And with that in mind, would any of the trustees like to make a motion on how we rule?
I motion that we move forward with the denial and based on the evidence
Okay.
that we have.
Do we have a second for that?
I'll second.
We have a second from trustee Linder. Is there any further discussion from trustees or questions? Do we ask for public comment on something like this? Is there any public comment? No comment online? Okay, we're gonna have a roll call vote. Trustee Faulkner?
Aye.
Trustee Abbott?
Aye.
Trustee Avasti?
Aye.
Vice Chair Jennings?
Aye.
Trustee Linder?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Sorry, Ms. Brennan, thank you for being here, but the application is denied.
Thank you.
Okay, we are ready to move forward with item
Where are we at?
7273E.
How much more do we have?
And I apologize for interrupting.
Huh?
Russ Mercader here. I will be leaving the meeting now. I thank the board for its consideration.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Recato, for your service. Yeah, we're on item 73E, which is discussion action on adoption of the internal ORS policy for procurement and contracting for professional and critical plan administrative services.
Okay, can we just take a couple
You want to take a
minutes?
5-minute break? Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And lunch is here.
good idea.
Yeah.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. 7.3E.
I make a motion, I mean, again,
I make a motion.
You're not there
You're
yet.
not there yet.
Okay,
You're not there
sorry,
yet.
sorry.
What's your
7.3E,
motion?
discussion action on the internal ORS policy for procurement of professional and critical plant administrative goods and services.
So this is internal, this is not with the finance?
Well,
How's this work?
So the recommendation from the Joint Governance
Right.
Committee was as follows: to direct the CEO to present the Cortex policy to the finance director for
Right.
feedback.
Oh, okay. That's good.
That was the recommendation. that I
Whoever the
remember.
CEO is.
Don't get too excited.
mhm.
Okay.
So do we have any trustee questions on this issue? All right, would someone like to formulate a,
If we started, I don't hear anything.
oh,
Oh, we gotta unmute. Someone needs to hit that button, wherever it is.
You're muted.
the host
We
unmute,
apologize,
that's,
yeah, we're fixing that. Are we
What?
okay now? Can you hear us now?
But it says,
The host, would
Yeah.
you,
the host would like you to unmute.
it's not,
I think it's a different setting. I'd jump up and touch.
Well, I
it.
think
It's
she
still
has
showing
her
we
question.
we need
Yeah.
to unmute it.
Hmm?
who's hosting this?
Oh.
Okay,
Oh.
there you go.
Now, can we hear it now?
Yes.
Can you hear us? Deborah?
Trustee Abbott?
Trustee,
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Trustee Abbott, can you hear us? Unmute?
Going once, twice.
I don't know, something is,
Yes, I still heard them go.
Yeah, I can hear you.
okay, there we
okay.
go. Okay. Maybe for the fourth or fifth time, item 7.3E.
Want to just repeat what we did so she could
Yeah.
hear it, and then
Oh,
I'll make a
okay.
motion to
Yeah, you
approve it.
probably need to.
Yeah, so the Joint Governance Committee recommended for this board to approve to direct the CEO to present the Cortex policy to the city finance director for feedback.
So we're simply asking for feedback on this proposed policy.
Correct.
We had added some things that I think were good adds,
Okay,
so I'll move the recommendation from the joint committee.
okay. Move
And
to,
I'll second.
okay, we have a second from trustee Abbott, a first from trustee Linder. Any further discussion? Any public comment? How do you vote? Trustee Faulkner?
Aye.
Trustee Abbott?
Aye.
Trustee Avasti?
Aye.
Trustee Jennings?
Aye.
Trustee Linder?
Aye.
And I vote aye. It is approved. On to 7.4, Disability Committee. We will receive and file the minutes.
Yep.
Um,
And you'll see we have another meeting coming August 6th, and
Okay,
we will have a number of cases coming forward. As far as the August 15th board meeting, there will
Mhm.
also be some things for the board to take,
mhm,
cases for the board to take action.
okay.
And you will see in the attachments, besides the minutes, but we've been really appreciative of the staff providing us the quarterly disability retirement applications dashboard, which you have as an attachment,
Mhm.
as well as the age of federated disability applications. And you'll see we're making progress, staff is making progress, and they're busting their butts to get this thing through,
Mhm.
and I appreciate it very much.
Okay, we all appreciate your hard work. We know this takes a lot of time and careful consideration. So no actions required here. Joint Personnel Committee, we haven't met since April, and I believe our last activity were at the joint, full joint board.
On
You-
June 17th is being.
On June 17th. You were all there. And Education and Training, you'd see the reports. Are there any proposed agenda items? So hearing none, we are in adjournment.
Oh, my God. Yay.
I was close, I predicted 12:30, so.
You
it's-
did?
You did good work.
I did-
Recording stopped.
Are we making book on this now?
No.
Because I can bet on myself, and that would be very productive.
No,
you.